This is a big one. Here we go. Second Labour MP unmasked in vile WhatsApp group. So we heard yesterday how Health Minister Andrew Gwynn had been sacked after the Mail on Sunday revealed his pretty disgusting WhatsApp messages dating back some years, one including that he hoped a pensioner who'd contacted him about bin collections would die. He also said, F your bins, and because you didn't vote for me, pretty much. We can now reveal, panel, you're back with me, Will, Chloe, Bill. Actually, we've got a pensioner on the line, Fergus McKellen, the GB News viewer. Fergus, good evening. This story just runs and runs, doesn't it? We had Andrew Gwynn yesterday. We've got a Labour MP now who I will unmask as Oliver Ryan, who's the 29-year-old MP for Burnley. He was another leading member of that group where he posted more than 2,000 messages. I have to say, Fergus, how do you feel, or how did you feel, hearing those disgusting, vile messages from somebody who's meant to be a health minister, looking out for the health of Brits, not least pensioners, simply because somebody asked about bin collections?
I remember I worked as a volunteer in drug rehab, an alcohol rehab centre a few years ago to help people out. And there was a really nice man there who happened to have a brown skin. And somebody, a volunteer, said something about him. And I didn't quite hear it, but one of the receptionists did. And she said, I can't believe he said something. Fergus, you might get angry, but you don't have racism in you. You don't have sexism in you. You don't have anti-gayism. So I don't get it wrong. But you get a bunch of people like that in a WhatsApp group, they will make mistakes. And by the way, Ben, great to be on your show for the first time, because I love you now you're here.
Oh, I love you. Thank you for your loyalty. Really appreciate it. Thank you, Fergus. So do you think this suggests a theme amongst Labour and the way they have, what they're being accused of is contempt for the electorate?
If I can use a bit of Hamlet, there is something rotten in the state of Labour. There's so many sleaze stories come out about the front bench, and these aren't even front benchers.
No.
There's so much nasty stuff coming out about Labour, and of course, everybody attacks Farage, and he hasn't done anything nasty yet. He hasn't had the chance.
How do you feel about your winter fuel payment being taken away as well? I mean, were you entitled to one?
Look, I'm all wrapped up. I spend a lot of time under my duvet with a poncho on as well, so I don't have to put the heating on. When I'm doing my dinner, I can put the heating on for an hour, but it's really expensive, so I don't have much heating in my flat. Now I'm sitting here with a nice thick jumper on and a thick T-shirt underneath. I climb under my duvet, my cat curls up against me, I pull the poncho over the pair of us, and we just all night. And when I go to the kitchen, it's the coldest room in the flat. It's really cold because it's got a low flat roof. My bedroom is the warmest room, where of course I lie on the bed shouting at GB News.
In a good way, I hope. Fergus, what's your cat called?
Kitty.
Kitty.
I tried to give her a posh name. I tried to call her Erda from Wagner's Ring Cycle, one of the goddesses.
Yeah.
It didn't stick. And people come up in the street and they say, oh, you're a lovely kitty. What's she called? I said, Kitty.
Fergus, you're great. Just lastly, I think I probably know your answer to this, and I'll get Bill Ramell's response to this in a second as the former Labour minister on the panel tonight. Do you think Labour care about your ilk, your pensioners, the elderly?
No. I really don't, because how many elderly people vote Labour? That's my belief. Bill's a nice bloke, and he comes on your show a lot. And all the shows, he's gutsy. And I don't agree with hardly anything he says, but he's got the guts to go on GB News and say all his Labour stuff. So I think it's great. He actually comes on, he's got the guts to come on regularly. But I don't think Labour really care about pensioners, because historically they're known as people who vote Conservative. I don't. Do you know what I voted last time? Well, of course.
Let me ask Bill now to kind of reassure you, Fergus. I mean, by the way, he's not a nice man. He's awful. No. Can you give a message on behalf of your Labour cohorts to Fergus here? He feels like, they've been a bit stitched up. You've had the winter fuel allowance. You've had these, quite frankly, disgusting comments from Andrew Gwynn. I mean, reassure him, will you?
I mean, look, Fergus, in terms of the winter fuel allowance, there's always been a case for means testing. I personally think the government put the threshold too low, and I hope that's going to be revisited. But I don't think there is a theme with Labour MPs like Andrew Gwynn. I mean, credit where it's due, and contrast with the last Tory government, as soon as this came out, Keir Starmer sacked him, and frankly, he's probably going to be booted out of the Labour Party. Compare and contrast with Tory ministers who breached the ministerial code and was still allowed to continue in government. What Gwynne said was disgusting, and he's unrepresentative of the views of the Labour Party and Labour Party members, a significant number of whom are pensioners. But the other thing that strikes me is I don't know of any MP at Westminster, and I'm speaking from my experience of 13 years, of any party who didn't from time to time moan about constituents. Nothing like this, but moan. But the age we live in with social media, the idea that you would put this down in writing, frankly, beggars belief. So it's not only horrific in terms of what he said, it's about his judgment as well.
Stupid, yeah.
Fergus, your response to that very quickly before I let you go?
Yeah, dead right. Well said, Bill. It's the arrogance of the man. And who else is in that WhatsApp group? We've got two of them. Who leaked it? And how many are in there? And how many think like that? It's horrible.
Fergus, you're a good man. Really appreciate you. My love to Kitty. I hope you wrap it warm tonight. Give her a nice treat or two, a saucer of double cream or something. Thank you, Fergus. Good man. Let's bring the panel back in now. Will, Chloe, Bill. Oliver Ryan, the Burnley MP, he has been unmasked now in the Mail tomorrow. Big story, this. We have to wonder what's going to happen to him now, Bill. I'll get your take on that in just a sec. But Mr. Ryan, was taking part with others in apparently homophobic banter and taking the mickey about a fellow Labour MP who was gay or is gay. Bill.
It beggars belief. I mean, I've not seen as much detail on what he said as I have Andrew Gwynne. Yeah. And in my view, Andrew Gwynne is absolutely banged to rights and should be kicked out of the Labour Party. But, you know, any Labour member of Parliament, Labour councillor or whoever who engages in this kind of language and conversation online is fundamentally wrong. And as I said earlier, has a complete absence of judgment.
Gwynne apologised yesterday, of course, for the messages. Chloe said that they're badly misjudged. Didn't matter. He was sacked anyway. What's going to happen to Ryan, Oliver Ryan? It's not suggested he made any inappropriate comments himself. I'm just reading the article now as we speak. I'm learning on the job, as always.
I mean, if it's the case that this guy just happens to be in the group chat, then I don't see why he would have to be kicked out of the party.
Oh, well, sorry, sir. He did. He has admitted, actually. There's a statement here. Let me just read this. Labour MP Oliver Ryan said, "I regret not speaking out about the unacceptable comments in a WhatsApp group at the time. I also made some comments myself, which I deeply regret." So he did say stuff.
Well, there we go. So maybe we're going to have another person kicked out of the Labour Party. And what I think, at least to Gwynne, is going to happen is I think there's a good chance that he's going to end up having to stand down as an MP. We may have another by-election on our hands. That is one of the seats where Reform came second. Labour were quite far ahead, but there will be a lot of eyes on that if there is a by-election to see what kind of vote share do Reform get. Are the big polls that they've got at the moment, is this starting to translate into votes in the ballot box? So it could be quite interesting times.
Will, is this a crisis for Labour now?
I don't think it's as much a crisis, but I do think that these types of stories hit Labour harder than, say, a Boris Johnson-led Conservative government, because the sort of pearl-clutching moralism that Starmer has made his personal brand means that the rank hypocrisy when these sorts of scandals come out suggests that they're just as bad, if not worse, than other politicians.
Well, I mean,
it hits them particularly hard.
When Fergus was talking there...
as soon as this came out, Starmer sacked him.
Sure, right thing to do.
Johnson allowed Priti Patel...
Why are you banging about the Tories all the time, Bill? They're gone. They're irrelevant.
Well, they are the alternative government, and even
that's debatable now.
They're going to be the alternative government at the next
But I mean, Will's point on hypocrisy, I mean, we were just speaking to Fergus a moment ago, when he was describing himself under the covers, wearing a poncho, it was almost word for word that video we saw of Starmer when he was in opposition, saying that he's so sympathetic of these old ladies that he's spoken to that can't get out of bed because they're so cold. He is such a hypocrite. Yeah,
and Bill, I with respect, I just don't think you can just keep banging on about the Tories all the time. They're long gone. Labour have been in power for 6-7 months now. We know they're, for now, irrelevant.
Yeah, OK, but judge us in absolute singular terms. As soon as this came out, Keir Starmer sacked him.
He did.
And there's now going to be a disciplinary process, and I have no doubt he's going to be booted out of the Labour Party.
Okey-doke. Hopefully we get 2 by-elections. That would be exciting, wouldn't it?